At the dawn of the 20th century, Russia remained a predominantly peasant nation, while the autocratic rule of the czars extended over a vast empire spanning 3 continents. This outdated system of governance grew increasingly disconnected from the desires of its urban population. The working class in the cities endured harsh exploitation and lived in squalor, while the countryside was plagued by the aftermath of a devastating famine. In the midst of this volatile atmosphere of hunger and unrest, a new czar, Nicholas II, ascended to power, leaving an indelible mark on Russia's destiny. Nicholas, born in 1868, inherited a dynasty that had ruled Russia for 250 years. When his father, Alexander III, passed away unexpectedly in 1894, the young 26-year-old Nicholas assumed the throne. He confided in his cousin, admitting, "I am not prepared to be czar. I never wanted to become one. I know nothing of the business of ruling." Ill-prepared for his role, Nicholas lacked an understanding of the evolving social dynamics within the country and failed to address the emerging trends until it was too late. Peasants remained tied to an unfair system where land ownership eluded them, while urban living conditions deteriorated, characterized by overcrowded cities. Nicholas demonstrated a limited comprehension of modern Russia and its increasingly educated and agitated urban society. These factors set the stage for a collision course that reached its climax on the infamous Bloody Sunday in 1905. The tragic event unfolded when thousands of Russians marched to the Winter Palace in St. Petersburg, not to overthrow the Tsar, but simply to present a petition. However, a moment of panic led to gunfire.
The marchers were singing "God Save the Tsar," when without warning, the Tsar's police opened fire. Hundreds, some say thousands, died in the street. The day became known as Bloody Sunday.
The incident shattered the illusion of stability, pushing the Tsar and his inner circle into a state of panic. Amidst these tumultuous times, the Russian people began viewing the Tsar and his family as a spectacle, causing consternation among other royal families worldwide. Nicholas's German wife Alexandra proved unpopular, and the influence of Rasputin, a Russian mystic and self-proclaimed holy man, grew. Rasputin's extraordinary hold over the inner circle and the Tsarina's increasing dependence on him fueled rumors of a deeper connection. It was believed that the Tsarina wrote, "How difficult it is to conquer one's bad habits, but you will help me. You will not leave me, for I am weak and love you and have faith in you alone." This family issue further tainted the affairs of the state, as a weak Tsar, overly reliant on a particular advisor, allowed matters to deteriorate. The royal drama took a deadly turn when Nicholas assumed supreme command of the armed forces as Russia entered the First World War. With an estimated 2 million deaths, the loyalty of the Russian people was severely tested, reaching a breaking point unprecedented in centuries of czarist rule. What unfolded next would become one of the most significant events of the 20th century. During that time, the defeated nations of World War I were left in a state of confusion and disarray, making them ripe for the implementation of the envisioned one-world government desired by the globalists. However, there was one obstacle in their path, just as there had been during the Congress of Vienna peace gathering after the Napoleonic Wars. This obstacle was Russia, which happened to be on the winning side this time, as it was in 1814. The Tsar's secure position on the throne presented a challenge for the Illuminati and Rothschild, as Russia had remained impervious to their influence and infiltration of banking interests. The globalists, well aware of the Tsar's aversion to a one-world government, devised a plan even before the outbreak of World War I to fulfill Nathan Rothschild's vow of 1814 when Tsar Alexander I opposed this treaty because he saw the Congress as an Illuminati takeover. Their plan involved the destruction of the Tsar and the elimination of any potential royal heirs to the throne. This had to be accomplished before the war's conclusion, and the Russian Bolsheviks would serve as their instruments in this sinister plot. The key figures of the Bolsheviks were Nikolai Lenin, Leon Trotsky, and later Joseph Stalin. Prior to the war, Lenin was based in Paris, while Trotsky found refuge in Switzerland. Both men, characterized by their disheveled appearance, lacked regular occupations and visible means of support, yet mysteriously possessed abundant wealth. In 1917, strange and clandestine activities took place in New York City. Trotsky would frequently enter and leave Jacob Schiff's grand mansion, while gatherings of Russian refugees, mostly residing in the Lower East Side, occurred at Trotsky's headquarters. These gatherings involved a secretive training process, shrouded in mystery, funded by Schiff. Suddenly, Trotsky vanished, along with approximately 300 trained individuals, and they set sail on a ship chartered by Schiff. Their destination was a rendezvous with Lenin and his comrades in Switzerland. The ship carried $20 million in gold, intended to finance the Bolshevik takeover of Russia. Lenin, anticipating Trotsky's arrival, organized a party at his hideaway in Switzerland. The guest list included prominent figures, such as Colonel Edward Mandell House, a mentor and confidant of Woodrow Wilson, a close associate of Schiff, and Warburg of the German Warburg banking clan. Despite their status as enemies due to the ongoing war, Switzerland provided neutral ground where adversaries could become allies, especially if they shared a common scheme. An unforeseen incident almost derailed the Lenin party when the chartered ship was intercepted by a British warship. However, Schiff swiftly issued orders to Wilson, urging him to demand the ship's release. Wilson complied, warning the British that failure to release the ship intact would lead to the United States reneging on its promise to enter the war. The British relented, and Trotsky arrived in Switzerland as planned. Yet another obstacle remained: safely transporting the Lenin-Trotsky faction of terrorists across the border into Russia. This is where Warburg, chief of the German secret police, played a crucial role. He arranged for the thugs to be loaded into a sealed railway car, accompanied by $5 million in German gold. During the elections in November 1917, Lenin's communists received only 24% of the vote, necessitating the use of force to establish their representation as the will of the people. Vladimir Ilyich Ulyanov, known as Lenin, embraced an ideology that promised a future free from hunger, inequality, and oppression. He recognized that the path to this extraordinary vision might entail sacrifices and bloodshed, but he believed it was a necessary means to achieve a society of true equality. Lenin's vision encompassed the basic desires of the Russian people: bread, land, and peace. After the disastrous experience of World War I and the state of the country at the turn of the century, these aspirations resonated deeply. Nikolai Lenin continued where Karl Marx left off. Though his family converted to Christianity, Karl Marx became a Satanist in his university years. In a poem entitled Pale Maiden, Marx wrote, "Thus heaven I've forfeited, I know it full well. My soul once true to God is chosen for hell." The insatiable thirst for power, rooted in satanic desires, found its way into Freemasonry, a secret society within a secret society. This inner circle comprised the highest echelons of Freemasons and gave birth to a merciless philosophy. It was on May 1st, 1776, that the Order of the Illuminati came into existence. To truly discern fact from fiction, it is crucial to examine original sources, and what remains undisputed about the Illuminati is profoundly unsettling. By delving into Robeson's work, Proof of a Conspiracy, the objectives of the Illuminati become apparent. They sought to abolish all forms of monarchical government and reject loyalty to such systems. Their agenda encompassed the eradication of private property and inheritance, the dismantling of the traditional family structure, and the complete annihilation of all religious institutions. The Illuminati represented an extremist faction within Freemasonry, and the influence of these organizations cannot be overstated. Throughout his life, Karl Marx developed connections and associations that influenced his ideas and writings. At one point, Marx became a 32nd degree Freemason. During this time, he crossed paths with Friedrich Engels, a German philosopher who had already been involved in a revolutionary group founded by Giuseppe Mazzini, an Italian patriot. Mazzini, who took charge of Illuminati in 1834, had reached the rank of 33rd degree Mason while studying at Genoa University. An important aspect of Mazzini's legacy is his formalization of the Mafia. The term Mafia itself is believed to be an acronym representing Mazzini Autorizza Furti, Incendi, Avvelenamenti, which translates to Mazzini authorizes thefts, fires, and poisonings. Freemasonry and the Illuminati encapsulate over 5,000 years of occult history, concentrating esoteric practices into their core. For roughly 250 years, these secretive groups have been conduits for occult ideologies. Interestingly, the establishment of the modern financial system can be traced back to a family with ties to the Illuminati. It becomes apparent that the goals of communism align closely with the objectives of the Illuminati. suggesting a remarkable similarity between the two ideologies, which shows us that the engineers are the same for both. Engels played a significant role in supporting Marx both physically and intellectually. He provided Marx with sustenance and ideas that would shape his life's work. In 1848, Marx published the Communist Manifesto, which was based on a draft by Engels. The manifesto had been commissioned by the Communist League in London, whose origins can be traced back to the Jacobin Club and the Illuminati. The underlying principles of communism align closely with the goals and ideals of the Illuminati. Karl Marx's pursuit of financial support led him to encounter Nathan Rothschild, who provided Marx with a significant sum of money to finance socialist causes through the lens of Hegelian Dialectics. Georg Hegel was a German philosopher who came up with a basic system for achieving the goals of the Illuminati called the Hegelian Dialectic. This system is based on 3 steps. In step 1, a rogue, government will create the problem that harms or even kills its own citizens. This deception is known as a false flag attack. In step 2, a rogue government will control the reaction to the problem which it created by typically blaming it on an enemy or some aspect of its own society over which it seeks more control.
Lenin returned to Russia and tried to turn the protests into action against the government. He published pamphlets encouraging violence against authority, with specific details on how to kill police officers.
This is why the term false flag attack is so named. In step 3, a rogue government will offer the solution to the problem which it created. This solution is typically a war or a system of regulations. The solution would usually not be accepted by the public had the ruled government not created the crisis and controlled the reaction to it in the first place. In 1867, Marx penned Das Kapital, which gained recognition as the working class's guiding text, often referred to as their Bible. While Marx called for the working class to rise against the financial bourgeoisie, it appears that Marx himself did not practice what he preached. In a letter to his uncle in 1864, Marx revealed that he had earned £400 through stock trading. Perhaps the most pronounced and consistent aspect of Marx's ideology was his extreme and radical hatred of Russia, which he believed to be the last bastion of Christian civilization. He and Engels regarded Russians and Slavs in general as subhuman Volkerabfall, barbarians. Had he lived to see his ideological heirs Vladimir Lenin, Leon Trotsky, Grigory Zinoviev butcher them by the millions, he would no doubt have cackled in orgasmic joy at the horrors visited upon them, men, women, and children. Marx used the newspaper Neue Rheinische Zeitung to try and incite a war against Russia. This Russophobia was also behind the strange alliance with David Urquhart when he moved to London, and Marx thus has the blood of the people who died in the Crimean War on his hands. Henry Heinemann, who spent many hours in Marx's company in his Record of an Adventurous Life, attributed this anti-Russian obsession to Marx's ethnocentrism. The Soviets tried to cover up this fact about Marx. In February 1917, the people and soldiers of Russia took to the streets of St. Petersburg in what initially began as a peaceful demonstration, rapidly evolving into a general strike and outright mutiny. Within just 7 days, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated, making way for a provisional government. This period witnessed tremendous excitement and optimism about the revolution, often overshadowed by the events that followed in October. Lenin seized the opportunity, and in a coup, his followers, known as the Red Guard, assumed control, propelling the radical Communist Party, the Bolsheviks, into power. However, this marked the beginning of a devastating civil war. Chaos engulfed the country as different regions and individuals decided where their loyalties lay, leading to widespread conflict. The Civil War pitted Lenin's Bolshevik Red Army against the White Army, composed of nobles and aristocrats. Both sides showed no mercy. In July 1918, the Tsar Nicholas and his family were awakened by guards from Lenin's Red Army. They were forced to gather in one room and ruthlessly executed. Execution and removal of the bodies took 20 minutes. Thus, the dynasty that had ruled Russia for 3 centuries met a horrifying end.
After the bloodbath, the bodies were soaked in acid and thrown into a bonfire. The royal line reduced to shards of bone. There could be no survivors, no possibility to revive the dynasty. A brutally clean slate, so Russia could begin again.
Yet the demise of the monarchy did not bring peace to the Russian people. Instead, it plunged them into an even more brutal and turbulent chapter as the country grappled with the consequences of the revolution and the ensuing civil war. Nikolai Lenin admired Mikhail Bakunin, who expressed ideas that portrayed evil as a rebellion against divine authority. Bakunin referred to Satan as the eternal rebel, the first free thinker, and the liberator of worlds. He also wrote, "This world is now, at least for the most part, at the disposal of Marx on the one hand and of Rothschild on the other. This may seem strange. What can there be in common between socialism and a leading bank? The point is that authoritarian socialism, Marxist communism, demands a strong centralization of the state. And where there is centralization of the state, there must necessarily be a central bank. And where such a bank exists, speculating with the labor of the people will be found." The United States stepped in with enormous amounts of food and relief supplies as famine gripped Russia. This created an opportunity for American industrialists and financiers like J.D. Rockefeller to construct the country's infrastructure. Consequently, America continued supporting the communist revolution, even as power transitioned from Lenin to Stalin, despite the latter's brutal tactics. The end of World War I aligned with the master plan of 20th century Illuminati financiers. They understood that communism relied on ongoing support from capitalism. Additionally, they anticipated that the repressive provisions of the Treaty of Versailles would be challenged by a future leader rising from within Germany. This scenario exemplifies the initial stage of the problem-reaction-solution strategy.
Die Engländer behaupten, das deutsche Volk wehrt sich gegen die totalen Kriegsmaßnahmen der Regierung. Es will nicht den totalen Krieg, sagen die Engländer, sondern die Kapitulation. Ich frage euch, wollt ihr den totalen Krieg? Vor uns liegt Deutschland, in uns marschiert Deutschland und hinter uns